Over to Philadelphia now, where a 17-year-old has been charged in connection with a terrorism probe. The city's district attorney alongside the FBI saying the teen communicated with a global terrorist group that is affiliated with Al Qaeda. The FBI alleging the teen was sending and receiving terrorist propaganda and guidance on committing criminal acts, including how to construct a bomb. Dr. Kenneth Gray is a retired FBI special agent now with the University of New Haven and joins us live to talk more about this. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you, Josh. Good to be with you.
So, Dr. Gray, what do we know at this point about the allegations against that 17-year-old? It sounds like they are some very serious allegations.
So the fact that he is being charged with local violations as opposed to being charged federally is because he's 17 years old. If he were an adult, if he were 18 or older, he would be being charged federally for these terrorist violations. But you are absolutely right. These are serious allegations. He's accused of being in contact with a terrorist group, the Katibat al Tawhid Jihad, better known as KTJ. KTJ is an affiliate of Al Qaeda. It's located primarily in Syria, but also in Afghanistan, and it's also been working in conjunction with the Al-Nusra Front. The 17-year-old was in contact with them, looking to try to travel to the area to join their group. But he was also acquiring tactical gear. He was acquiring bomb-making components. And he was starting to construct an IED, explosive device. And consequently, he was becoming more and more of a threat of actually doing something here in the United States. And so the FBI had been looking at this individual since March of this year, but it was getting to the point where they had to do something about him before he actually carried out some act of terrorism.
And this is a hard question to answer because a lot of this is concerning, but to you specifically, what is the most concerning part of all of this?
Well, the fact that he was obtaining components for an IED and he was starting to construct the IED, that was not something that he was building to take overseas. He wouldn't be able to get it on board a flight. Instead, that's something he was putting together to use here domestically, here in the United States. So this was an individual who was moving past just the rhetoric and moving over to getting ready to do some action. He also had access to weapons, so who knows what he was actually planning to do, whether it was to travel overseas, to take part in a terrorist group, or to do something on his own here. He would fall into the category we would call a lone wolf. That is a person who was talking to other groups, but that he himself recruited himself and was planning to do something possibly on his own.
And you kind of touched on this already, but just knowing that this suspect is 17 years old, still considered to be a minor, a child, so to speak, what role does that play in all of this, including the investigation and the charges against him?
Well, as I said, he would have normally been charged federally for this, but the federal government does not charge 17-year-olds or people under 18. Consequently, they are working with the state and the locals to charge him there with state violations. Now, the state is looking to move him from juvenile court up into adult court. And so he will likely be facing a court as an adult, even though he was 17 at the time of the arrest.
And I don't know if you can speak to this here, but how exactly do investigators find out that someone is speaking with a terrorist group? How does that all come together?
So in this particular case, it appears, looking through the media, that he was first in contact with KTJ via Instagram. But there are a number of different apps that you can use to hide your communications. He was using WhatsApp. And on his WhatsApp account, he had, instead of his photograph on there, he had a terrorist group banner on there, the ISIS banner. So this is a person who had self-identified as a terrorist and was using social media and communicating over the internet with this group. He was self-recruiting, but he was self-recruiting to do something with this group and possibly travel overseas to do it.
And my understanding is that KTJ has fairly recently been labeled as a terrorist group in the U.S. Is that correct?
That is correct. There is a list of those that are designated as terrorist groups. KTJ was added to that list 2 years ago. It was responsible for a bombing of a Chinese embassy in Kyrgyzstan, and it was also responsible for a bombing in St. Petersburg. So this is a group that is operating outside of Syria. It's operating, throughout Asia and the Far East. And this is a serious group. It's an Al Qaeda affiliate, and is more of a group that is supporting other terrorist groups but doing stuff on its own. It's got about 500 members total.
And the Philadelphia DA, as well as the FBI, actually held a news briefing about this where they released a lot of information, but there's still a lot of questions there. I want to get your opinion here. What questions do you still want answered in this investigation?
Well, I'd like to know what he was targeting here in the United States. As I said, he was putting together an IED. That means that he was probably going to try to use that IED. He had guns. So was he planning to assault someplace? Was he planning to bomb someplace? If so, did he put together plans? Did he take photographs? Is there any information showing what he put together as a plan to carry out that act if he was going to attack something in the U.S.? I'd like to know if he was really a threat here in the country, or was he just a person traveling overseas, which is a violation by itself to travel in support of a terrorist group. But if he was planning to do something here domestically, I'd like to know what that was.
Same. All right. Well, Dr. Kenneth Gray, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. Is there anything else you want to add before I let you go?
No, I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here, as always.
Thank you.